Okay, good evening. Welcome to the January 24th, 2022 meeting of the Finance Committee of East Bridgewater. We are meeting at Town Hall this evening, and the purpose of the meeting is to start to meet with departments on their fiscal year 2023 budget requests. So we do have a schedule, roughly 15-20 minutes per department, depending on the department. There may be some pauses in the meeting for anyone who's watching at home because we may need to call someone up sooner than their scheduled time or whatnot, so please be patient with us. And with that, we have our library service director here, so if you want to come on up, Chris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Dan, before we begin, can we outline for the folks out there as what the directive was for the budget this year, whether we set a 2% level services, et cetera? What was the directive given the departments?
Yeah, it was 2%. I mean, with that said, we also know that there's every year certain departments are going to have a little bit more. Some are not going to need the full 2%. So we'll go through the process of these meetings to try and see who has some unique requests for the upcoming fiscal year. There's also, we need to start to think through the ARPA funds that are out there and how we can maybe offset some increases through that money, which I think is $4.3 million.
Oh, good.
So good point, Dave.
Okay.
All right, Chris.
So I'll ask you to bear with me. I am getting over COVID. So that I had it about 2 weeks ago, and while I'm perfectly fine now, I still have a little bit of congestion, so I might have to clear my throat and cough a few times. I apologize for that. So I assume you all have the budget that I submitted. Yeah, I have some other documents, some things that you usually ask for. So this is the salary scale as well, and then the document that I use whenever I'm preparing the salaries line in my budget. You always need to know like how many people I have at the different salary ranges, and sometimes even though I do payroll every single week, I always sometimes when I'm under the fire I forget how many staff members I have. So I just figured it'd be easy if I just gave you a sheet that I use that breaks all those numbers down. The salary line is the biggest line in our budget. So, I prepared two budgets, the level services budget and then the needs budget. The salary line is the same. The personnel services line is the same for both of those. I did give 2% across the board plus step increases. Because we had some turnover, we had some staff members, longtime staff members retire. So our longevity line went down significantly. Because those staff members had been with us for a long time and they were at the top of our longevity scale. Also, my salary is a 1% contractual increase. So given those two things, I was able to give the 2% and the step increases and still hold the personal services line down to 2% total. Any questions about that, or those documents I gave you cover it?
Seems to cover it. What, can I just ask a question? What is a YA librarian?
Young adult librarian, our teen
Alright.
librarian, does all of our teen services.
Oh, cool, thanks.
So the next line is just the general expenses. That line is pretty much, it's the same as it has been with one exception, and that's the professional services computers. That's the line that we use to pay for our sales membership and our PC support that we get through sales as well. Both of those items did have a slight increase, so there is a slight increase in that line. So it's a 1.48% increase in that total general expenses line. But that's just a contractual obligation to sales. There's no other increase. Okay. All of those lines, like the $1,000 for repairs and maintenance equipment, we spend twice that every year, but we spend that mostly out of state aid. So that's what we pay for our copier contracts and things like that, and those things are expensive. So it was higher in the past, but for the past several years, we've held it at 1,000. The same for the office supplies. Already this year, we've already spent $803 in office supplies from our state aid accounts. So we do always exceed the $4,000, even though sometimes in the past, if you look, you'll see that we did not. That was simply because we spent out of state aid in order to return some funds back to the town due to the COVID. So we were trying to save the town a little bit of money because we didn't know what was going to happen. But usually we do spend that. And we still did. We just spent it out of other funds, not out of town appropriation. Any questions about that? The last line, and this is where the difference is between the level services and the needs budget. Most of you are aware that in order to receive state aid from the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, we must expend 16% of our total town appropriation on materials. So if we got the level services budget of $555,994.60, then that would mean that we would need to expend $88,959 and some change toward materials. So if we got the $83,000 that I'm asking for in the level services budget for books and supplies, then we would be about $6,000 short of that requirement to meet state aid. The library can cover that through funds from the Friends and from trust funds and from state aid. However, we use those funds for everything else that we do that we don't get town appropriation for. So about $8,000 in programming. We've spent already this year about $6,000 in computers and furniture, things like that. All of those things come out of that. We also need to redo our website, and we don't seek town appropriation for that. I'm aware that we could seek capital funds for some of those things, but the library needs a new roof, and so we're going to be looking for capital funds for that. So I'm trying to use our other funding sources for these other operating expenses. So the more that I have to use those other operating expense or funds toward materials, the less I have toward these other things. So that's why I asked for $85,000 in the needs budget. Under that budget, we would need to spend $89,279 toward materials. So if we were appropriated 85, then that means we would only spend $4,279 from additional sources. Likely the Friends of the library can make up a big portion of that. They purchase our museum passes every year, and that's $2,000 or $3,000. So I wouldn't have to use as much of my state aid or my trust funds or other things in order to make up our materials requirement if I were to receive $85,000 in that books budget line. That's the only difference between the two budgets, and you'll notice even the needs budget still comes in right at 2% increase. And that's it.
And how, I know we've talked about this in the past, do the funds that you collect from fines, do those continue to go down too?
They go down every year, and our circulation is down. It has been since the beginning of the pandemic. It recovered some, but it's still not up to what it normally is. Even though we do, people can do curbside pickup and all of those kinds of things, we just don't see the circulation that we were seeing before. And then we were receiving less fine money to begin with, and then of course if you circulate less, then you have less fines. And we do everything we can not to fine people. We don't like to do that. So our fine funds are continuing to decrease. Now they have come back a little bit. We had almost none during the pandemic. But we have had, during the time we were closed down, I guess we're still in the pandemic as we're all wearing our masks, but, despite the fact that it has come back some, it's not what it used to be. So we have that is a revolving account that the town created a couple of years ago, and I do budget about $2,000 of that toward materials usually.
Okay.
But it's, it's kind of questionable. That fund I think is capped at 6, but we only bring in probably about 1,500 to 2,000 every year. So I've capped my spending at about that amount.
Okay. Thank you.
If I could be a bit of an advocate for a moment or two here. I think the thing that's continually impressed on me in the several years that I've been on the committee with respect to the library is that they're fortunate, and I think maybe disfortunate or unfortunate, in the fact that they get the state aid. Because, you know, while yes, it's a nice thing, it also has the effect of, and, you know, these other secondary sources that they have, of meaning that the town doesn't necessarily fully support the line items in the budget that are necessary to run the building, electricity being a good example, you know, in the book budget most particularly. You know, to me, there is no line item here, obviously, for programming. Chris spends about $8,000 on programming a year. That's for adults, for kids, you know, the cost of speakers, the cost of construction paper that they use, you know, whatever it may be. You know, it seems to me that to add $4,000 or $6,000 to the books line item here in a $50-odd million budget is not a great thing. It would allow the library to use those secondary funds toward other purposes, furniture most notably, signage, you know, things that they have great needs for but otherwise don't have the resources for. So, I mean, if we could pencil in, you know, that's, just use the number $6,000 as an additional amount here, and if conditions allow it, you know, go in that direction. If you know, things are tight, obviously it can be taken out, but I think certainly they make good use of the monies that they get, and they are one of the departments, is most, you know, everyone does, but I think the library, I've always had a particular affinity for libraries, and
How many people went to the library last year?
We average about, normally, in normal times, it's about 250 a day. Currently, we get in about 100 people a day. So, I mean, I don't know the number for the whole year off the top of my head. As I said, it is about half of what we normally get, but it is a substantial number of people. In addition to, you know, checking out materials, programming brings in a lot of folks. We can have one program, you know, that can easily get 50 people in the building at a time. We also have the young population, the young adults here in town. When they get out of school, they often have nothing to do, so they make their way over to the library, especially on Fridays. And we can easily have 150 kids at the library on a Friday afternoon.
Nice.
So we get a lot of use.
Good. Is that trending up or trending down, and what's going
It
on?
stays about the same, yeah. I mean, during the cold months, it goes down a little bit, but not a lot, not as much as you would think. The kids will stay out in the cold, you know, they like that ice cream even when it's cold, and they'll come over to Skinner's and then hang out at the library. And so this past Friday, we had every available chair in the library being occupied by someone who was, you know, between the ages of 10 and 15 probably. There wasn't a single space in the building to be had at that time.
Wow, so you
And
big a library.
that's pretty much almost every Friday.
I would assume your computer use by folks who may not, you know, have home computers and so forth is still strong?
It is not as much as it used to be. We find that people don't need the computers as much as they used to, but the people who need computers need more help with them, and they know less about them. So the computer use itself is not as high as it used to be, but staff engagement with helping people with computers is actually higher than it has ever been. All it takes is one person, you know, and they're not familiar with using computers, and it takes a good bit of staff time. But we often do have available computers at almost any time of the day.
You have some unique programs where those who don't have internet, don't you have hotspots that can be rented
We
over
do.
weekends?
You can check out hotspots with your library card. It doesn't cost anything. We have, I think we have 4 that we own, and then 5 that we got through a state grant that we're circulating this year. We'll have to decide, depending on usage, whether we continue those or not once the state funds run out. But they are popular, and they do. We have one or 2 out almost all the time.
Yeah. And do those get paid for through your supply line item?
The ones that we pay for directly do come through our book supplies, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up good points, Kevin, that this budget, in my opinion, has always been very conservatively managed and presented. There really haven't been any capital requests from this department. I mean, I know you have the roof coming up, but that's inevitable. That's going to happen. So we should definitely try to consider something.
One of the things that that's caused our materials costs to go up this year is because of the pandemic, we've had to put more into digital materials, and that was last fiscal year and this fiscal year as well. Digital materials cost libraries a lot more than they do individuals. One book that you might get on Amazon for $9.99 that you can, purchase yourself, we might pay $75 for that. And then we only have it for a certain amount of time. Sometimes after it circulates, 26 times is the number that they decided, then it goes away and I have to buy it again. So, all of those materials, they drive our materials expenses way up, more than we normally would see because of the pandemic. Some people are not still comfortable coming in and checking out physical books. So we have more digital material circulating now than we ever have before, and those things cost more than anything else we get. We could get the same book in print for $25, so a third of the cost of the digital book. But we're trying to meet our patron needs, and right now digital is where they need it. So that and it continues to increase.
And do you see in the actual paper-based products, I mean, there's a shortage of paper out there. Is that increasing costs?
It hasn't hit us too bad. During the lockdown last year, we were having a hard time getting materials. So that's part of also why our materials expenditure actually dropped last year. MBLC did away with that requirement that we spend a certain amount, which was good because some of the things we ordered just never came in. So we did have a supply issue. This year we haven't seen it so far, even though they keep saying that we're going to. There are some delays, but we haven't seen things just not coming in so far. But a book is a finished product, so those paper shortages and things you're talking about, even just putting them together, that takes time. That we might see a book that should have come out this year not come out until next year because of that shortage. But so far we haven't seen that.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris?
No, I think you're doing a great job. My kids love going down there.
Thank you
very
so much
much.
for coming in. Absolutely.
You all stay well.
You also.
Great. 4 minutes ahead of schedule. This is great. Next up, we have our town clerk, Sue Gilpatrick. Thank you for coming early.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm gonna go with no.
So, did you people get the revised numbers?
We got, so Melanie sent out this was it Friday, I think, that I sent it
Friday.
out? So
Okay.
As of Friday, unless something's
She should-
changed today.
That should be the,
So Thursday?
that should be the bottom line.
Mine was
Thursday, sorry.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, those should be the correct ones.
Okay.
So basically, you'll see the bottom line is up quite a bit, and that's because we have 3 elections this year. First being the state primary in September, the state election November, and then the annual town election in May. So instead of the 1 election we had this year, we have 3 for the next fiscal year. For salaries, I put myself up 2%. It shows at a 2.39 because of the 5.2 weeks of the salary. 52.2 weeks, sorry. For Michelle and Katie, they still don't have a contract. The Clerical Association doesn't have a contract in place. I put them up 2%, assuming hoping they're not gonna get more than that, but if not, we'll have to worry about that later. My stipend, the 41, chapter 41 for the registered voters stayed at 500. I did put in for a stipend for the records access officer. We're seeing the public records requests a lot more requests we're getting. Sometimes 2 or 3 a day. Sometimes it's a quick turnaround. It's like just a quick question that I can just zip off an email. But
Well,
there's
what
been
sorts of things?
they're asking all kinds of things. They're asking about, voting things. Some people are asking ancestry questions, they all come through the public records queue, so they have to get recorded as a public records request, and I keep a track of them on a Excel file. I'll tell you, the 2020 election, the requests we get, and I'm sure Lucia can speak for it also, some of the requests we got from all these voting groups, I mean, it was mounds and mounds of paper and, requests they were asking for. Some of them are extracts, they want the voting list, they want, voting history, some of the things, we can't get, because once the election materials are locked and sealed, we can't open them unless it's a court order. So some stuff I could do, some stuff I couldn't, research as much as I can, obviously give as much information as we can and we have available. We don't have to recreate things for people, but anything that we do have, if we have it, we obviously have to present it to them. So it's some days it's nothing. Today I think we have 2. Sometimes a week will go by and there's none. It's like, yes. But they seem to be taking up a lot more time and paperwork.
Can you charge for that?
Depending on how long. A lot of times too, you have to kind of figure out what you have to look for. And if it's over a certain amount of time, we can charge up to 2 hours at $25 an hour.
Who makes that, the state? That's a state rate?
Yes, that's you have to pay the lowest salary, the lowest salaried person.
Oh.
You charge their rate, or $25 is the max. So even still, you have to figure out how much time and everything, and then you send them the estimate, and then you never hear back from them. But, and you learn the lesson hard way that you don't go start gathering the information until you have that check in hand. Because, you just, some of them will send something back and some will say, no, I'm all set.
So that has never been a line item before.
No, but
So what brings
when I
it
was
this
doing
year?
when I was doing the salary, checking salaries last year for my increase, when I was getting information from other town clerks, a lot of them were telling me they get a stipend for a burial agent, their stipend for this, stipend for that. A lot of had stipends for records access officer. So I was just asking for it, and I would hope that you can support me, and if you feel that's too much, then by all means, I'm not.
I can defend that for the fact that, especially now with the elections, these people run you crazy in the requests they want. How many, with the primary especially coming, you're going to have people requesting for a listing of all your Democrats, percentages, your listing of all your Republicans, your Green Rainbow, all your parties. And it's a very, very time-consuming thing, and it's very frustrating. There's also records I guess I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure they need planning documents. They want planning documents, and as the record access officer, it's our responsibility to provide these, and we take the chances of the state coming in and auditing us and seeing. We have to keep track of all our records. I particularly have a special program to keep track of them, but they're beginning. This is only Monday. I had 4 requests today on different things. So especially with the busy election year, they're coming. They're going to come. They're going to come fast and furious. And these people, they come in and you have a 10-day. You have to reply within 10 days, or you're in violation of the open meeting law, and they can come after you. And so, but I think. And not just because I'm a town clerk, I think it's because I can understand that it is not an unreasonable request.
So how does that work with the elections? You have like a database of all the people that are registered to vote in the town?
We have, here in East Bridgewater, we have 2 state computers that we keep track of any registered voter. It's all done through the state. So they also have access into our computers to see
Yeah.
You know, because if you go to the Secretary of State's office, you know, where do I vote? And put in your name in it, they'll give you all your information, if you're registered, where you're registered, that kind of thing.
Right, so
But we
can't
have
you
two
just give people the whole roster and say, yeah, go do whatever you want with it?
Well, certain extracts from there are public, and then certain ones are not public. Obviously, if the information they're asking is out of, and the non-public one, that obviously we, you know,
What's
cannot
an
give it to
example
them.
of what's non-public?
Well, no minors. And,
Well,
you
they
know,
can't
and
vote.
because of the census they're in, well, no, I know they can't vote, but because of the census, their names are in that computer.
So there isn't a database of registered voters for this town?
Well, there's one of the extracts is registered voters.
Yeah.
So you can request that extract, and then when you get it, you have to put it into an Excel file and
Yeah, you just
email
give
it off that
that's
way.
Right? You give the same one out to everyone, let them figure out
Well,
what they want to
it
get out
changes
of
from
it.
day to day, because people now,
Well, of course it does, but
now
you
with the
give them
now with the
latest.
registry doing voter registration, anyone who does a transaction at the registry, they show up on our report. And so we have to go through the whole process, and you end up finding out it's a duplicate voter. So it's, they can,
Oh, they don't figure that out?
no, and the thing is, and I had to register, I mean, I had to get renew my license this year, so I purposely did not check off the box, do you want to register to vote? I didn't check that off, you know, I checked
You
no.
already registered, right?
And it still came through that I had signed up to register to vote. So it was a duplicate, so you have to go
But could
through,
you vote twice?
no. Good try.
So just think, years ago, this was all done on paper. So a lot of this stuff, when I ran for office, you go to the clerk's office, you'd get it, you'd pay your fee, you'd get the file. So, you know, the only thing we gotta be careful of here is every time when the world changes, right? So if the chief comes in from the police department and says, now I gotta start doing this, I need this, and then the fire chief comes in and says, now I gotta start doing this. We gotta talk about this and see what the story is, because this could go across all departments. When I met with the DPW, he was talking about a lot of stuff that's going on down there, too.
The
And,
police department is intensive at this point.
yeah, so it's,
Requirements, yeah.
Yeah.
it's something to talk about across all departments and see what the story is.
Well, a lot of places have, I mean, in business, you probably had, Dan, like, content management system, CMS, right? I'm dealing with that at work now, where, you know, you put in the query, like you say, give me the voter roll, comes back, or give me the, whatever, the DPW files, and whatever's there comes back, right? We probably don't have that, but that probably would help if you
Well,
guys had something like
I
that,
think
right?
maybe the town has Windows 10 now, right? Okay, we're moving up in the world.
So it's, I mean, it's good background, and we can definitely go through and discuss.
And so what's the 19K there, the reduction in section 19K? What was that one?
Oh, I had dropped that last, that's for having your CMC,
Yeah, okay.
which I don't, that's based on education points on that, and the length of time that it would have taken me to go through that.
that's right, I remember that
You know,
discussion, yeah.
I don't have that right now, so we took it out of the budget until
Gotcha.
such case that it was there.
Okay.
Okay, so the big one is the town meeting budget line went up quite a bit. And like I said, basically that's because we had only one election this year, this fiscal year, and we'll have 3 next year. And also, I would like to,
Excuse me, when it says town meeting wardens, that doesn't just mean the town meeting.
no,
That's
no,
the
that's
elections too,
elections,
right?
yeah, that's
Okay,
all the
all right.
all the election expenses, yeah. My election workers at this point are only getting paid $8 and $10 an hour. The inspectors, the people who check in and check out, check in and then are at the ballot box, they get $8 an hour. The wardens and clerks is one in each precinct. They get $10 an hour. So I've talked with, I talked with Charlie about it, and for what they go through, and obviously minimum wage is $15, so I would like to increase their wages to $13 and $15 an hour. And that would put, that's $4,800 right there
Is that-
towards that line item.
Is that incorporated in there?
That is incorporated in there, yes. And then basically, an election, it costs anywhere between $5,000 and $7,000 just to run an election. Hopefully, we're gonna get some of the, money from the state for the unfunded times that the elections are open. And, that's usually, $2,000 or $3,000, so that would if we get that, I can't count on them. The state doesn't always give it to you in a timely manner, so you have to budget it, and then if you get it back, then obviously there's gonna be that extra money at the end of the year, which would go back to the town.
So of the total cost, what, do you know the breakdown as to, like, what's paid to poll workers versus what's like supplies?
Well, I just figured out the breakdown. Basically, I have 24 people at the election. 2 of them are my workers from the office, and so 22 people would be, so there'd be 8 at the 15 an hour and 13 at the 13 an hour, not 13. 2, 4, 3 times 3, 6, 9, 12 at 13 an hour.
And how long are they there for?
Well, the annual town election, the polls are opened 11 to 7, so they're there from 10 to 8. And on the state elections, we would come in at 6. And usually the inspectors, they usually are out by, within a half an hour of the polls closing. They have to agree with the tape, they have, and then the wardens and clerks, sometimes we're there till 10 or 11, depending on, the primary is usually worse, because it's like running 3 separate elections, or 2 separate elections, depending how many ballots you're gonna have. I think we're down to, I think we do have 3 parties at this point, so we would have 3 ballots, and you have to tally each Democrat and Republican, and, you know, I think it's Green Rainbow's back again.
How do they do the mailing? Do you guys count those too?
The mail-ins, yes, we either do a separate tabulation and run them all through, or we sort them by precinct and run them through in the course of the day.
During the day?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so, all the write-ins and the mail-ins have to get counted before the close of polls. And depending on how many we have for mail-ins, you know, we might have to bring on a couple extra bodies to run them through, or if we do a central tabulation, that would be extra people too.
Okay.
Sounds like you need more money. I mean, this has been in the news every day, this elections thing, right?
Yep.
So,
Well, you know,
I mean, it's not that much money here, $27,400 for these people? Doesn't
well,
sound like big money.
it sounded big to me, and I'm hoping we can stick with it and stay under that.
Okay, good.
You know, worst case scenario, I would unfortunately have to come back to the finance committee and say my elections went over, and hopefully I would.
Well, if you got more money, what would you do? Hire more people?
No, I mean,
Or votes.
I mean, the biggest increase is due to the hourly increase.
yes,
right?
most of the, yeah, $5,000 would be the hourly increase.
Okay.
That's also still in legislation. We don't know about the early voting yet.
Right, and then we still
And
don't have,
that early voting, 1 week for primary, 2 weeks for the state. And then if there's vote by mail, it's the amount of money, get people in and help you mail out all those ballots.
All right, that's what I mean. It's
well,
gonna sound
hopefully
like
if
all
there's
these
vote by
ideas
mail,
cost
the
a lot of
state
money,
won't be
right?
Costs a
sending
lot
out,
of money.
won't be sending out postcards, because that was a fiasco, because
Yeah, that's in
people would
legislature.
apply for the ballot, and then they'd send their postcard in, so then you've got duplicate applications, and the time that we had to spend in the office just sorting through that and keeping all those things straight and making sure people weren't getting 2 ballots, and, you know, that was a lot of weekends, late nights, you know, it's,
So there could be some help there if you had more money. Yep.
as far as office supplies, I kept that the same. Computer supplies, I'm hoping we don't need any more toners for next year, so that I dropped that a little bit. And the dues, memberships, and conferences, I kept that the same at 2,000. I do try to go to 3 conferences a year. There's one coming up next week, the first week in February at Devon's. There's usually one in Plymouth, and then we usually have a fall conference.
Nice.
And that's it for the town budget. And then my other budget is the Board of Registrars. Their salaries are the same at 2,000, so there's 4 registrars, 500 each. And for the Board of Registrar expense, it's 4,800. I base that on, that's basically for the annual town census. Our bill this year was 4702, so I put it up a little bit for, I'm sure postage is probably gonna go up again. And also where the town has some new growth, hopefully we'll be sending out more censuses, because more homes. And I think that's it. Any other questions, concerns?
I don't have any. Anyone
Oh,
else?
you're doing a great job with the money you have available, for sure.
Trying my best.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sue.
Come back with any questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Paula Wolf in the Assessor's Office. Good evening.
So this is, basically, the only thing that was increased on this was, the salaries per contracts up top. And oh yeah, I had one increase, the maintenance fee agreement went up on one of my, contracts for the appraisal software. And then I just took that out of another spot to keep that all level funded. So that's it. It wasn't,
You're a complicated woman, what can we say?
Actually, a quick question that Sue mentioned, and I meant to ask her. Do your admin support salaries, are they, or the clerk, is it the clerical, that one of the two still doesn't have a contract?
Clerical, I think. I
Clerical?
think it's clerical.
Clerical?
the what?
Is it clerical?
Yeah, the clerical doesn't have a contract yet. We just did a 2%. Like, we tend to do that. A lot of times they don't have, it lags behind, so I think this one they're on, it's been 3 years and we kind of knew, but this year, it doesn't really change too much, so that's all we did across the board. So
Is
there's
that way behind from when it expired, the contract?
No, that would be, like, we never stopped doing 2% every
Oh,
year. So there,
okay.
we don't really have any fear that, unless next year the compensation studies shows that they, have a new contract that would make a not substantial, but maybe, they would.
Inflation's back.
Joe, it's back for all of us.
Sure is.
Go ahead.
Even the clerks, inflation's back, 7%
Yeah,
annually.
I know.
What is chapter 59-21A-1/2?
It's a state law that says if you are a designated assessor for the state, then you get from my case, I have the highest designation, and it's the only one that they have a law that says that you get a 10%, whatever your salary is, you get 10% on top for attaining that.
Oh, okay.
It's called a
So
certified Massachusetts assessor. So, I worked hard to get that. There was quite an incentive to do it, and, yeah, so. That is, and then there's another stipend that includes a $500 stipend for the MAA, which one of my staff has, the administrative assistant.
Nice. So when does everything get reassessed again? Is it just like a rolling thing?
Yeah,
How does
we
that work?
finished it up, and we usually get certified in like September or October,
Oh.
and then we set the tax rate once that's done.
So it happens every year?
Yeah, every year.
Weird.
And then every 5 years is a large, like, recertification that's pretty in-depth. But we did that 2 years ago, so I have 3 more years before that happens again. Last year, though, was the most, really a substantial change in values. It was just,
Great.
I had never seen it, even, well, I wasn't here in 2005, but that was when it did it before.
Yeah.
But this is just, it's
Crazy
like
times.
12, 14, 15%, sometimes 20 on some types of homes, because some of the smaller homes have become so desirable to get into the market that
Right.
we're seeing those increase. And the funny thing is, we usually have about 20 abatements by this time. It's January 1st till February 1st. And we have, we have 2, which is,
Unusual?
we don't know what's going on. It's never happened, ever. And
Right.
back in the day, when we weren't up to the market, people, you were a lot below the market, and we used to get 120, 130.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, and then we've been averaging maybe 20 to 30 tops, and now we're at 2.
I'm going Tuesday.
There might be a run next week, now that I've.
Now that you brought it up, yeah,
announced.
exactly.
But I think people understand when they've called and come in, but we share our, the information that we have, and, when you say, okay, could you sell this for this
Right.
that people kind of go,
All the
yeah, I
houses
think
is-
I could, so.
They're getting multiple offers on the same day they go on the market.
Yeah, real estate's very interesting right now.
Unknown caller.
We have a lot of
Guess so.
A lot of good things happening in the town as far as new construction and
Got a lot of
new
new
growth,
Yep.
yeah, so that's a good thing. That's about it.
All right.
All right, any questions for Paul? It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I think that's the most straightforward budget I've ever done. to tell you the truth. Just followed all the contracts and said,
Appreciate
okay.
some, yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you,
All right, thank you, nice to see you all.
Thank you.
too. All right, next we have the Veterans Agent.
All right, Dan, you gotta fill.
I know.
Come on, Dan, what do you got? Any jokes, any,
Good stories.
I was gonna say maybe I'll just run downstairs and grab him. His office is right at the bottom of the stairs, I think, so I'll run and grab him real quick.
Oh, sure, get off camera.
Yeah.
So, big storm coming up this weekend? Is that what I heard?
Not yet, potential, they're gonna let us know,
Potential?
right?
Yep.
Mostly on the coast.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to go to New York, so
Oh, figures. If it's on the weekend, I don't have to go anywhere, so.
Time.
Put some logs in the fire and watch the snow.
Send the kids outside for a little bit, you know?
That's it.
I wonder what happened to the budget here. I'm looking at the veterans, and it doesn't have the prior year.
yeah, different setup for sure. It's only one, right?
Yeah, can't people just go buy the picture at CVS? I mean, that's, what's he gonna have his own camera phone?
Well, it makes a pretty good revenue. So
Well, I mean, it's not a for-profit business up here, is it?
it goes into the general fund. Maybe we could then fund the other things for people with that money.
Got a camera, I can sell them, but no printer.
They used to be done in the town clerk's office, passports.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was some little town, I think it was Louisiana, a town clerk doctored a birth certificate because they have access to all those records. So the feds took it away from all the town clerks.
Oh,
Wouldn't
wow.
allow them to do them anymore, and it's good
Really?
revenue, yeah. Yeah, so any department that can do it. that doesn't have access, so I see veterans here does them, but it's very good revenue.
Yeah, that happened, what, 10 years ago, maybe? More than that?
No, not more than that. I'd say probably about 8, 9 years ago.
Hello,
yeah.
how was it?
Yeah.
Well, you?
Doing well, thanks. A little busy downstairs, but, other than that, which is always a good thing, so.
That's very good. All right, so up next, we have the Veterans Office. Chris, take us away.
All right, you guys just want me to go,
Yeah, if you just want to walk us through
Sure.
or speak to any increases, I guess.
really, the only increase we have is department salary for, COLA reasons. Other than that, everything is looking the same. Been doing well. I did speak to one issue with, not even an issue, with Dave earlier. Our passport system is getting out of date. For instance, the camera I have downstairs, when you plug the charger into it, kills the camera. So we've been running on batteries for the last 3 months, which is fine. It's a small expense. I got plenty enough office budget for batteries for now until, the end of the FY. Have been pricing different equipment, and I do have my eyes on a couple of things that right now I take a picture, and I've got guidelines that I'm taking the picture with, depending on if it's a small child, depending on if it's an older adult. People would do vary. So we do have, I'd say 1 in 10, probably 1 in 15 come back for a picture, which if I mess the picture up, that's on me. So, there's no charge for a second time around. This system would check it with the other 6 systems that run state IDs, federal IDs, international passports, all that sort of stuff, and would digitally print it out and be its own system. And I've had quotes with the same company that we currently do business with on the passport side of $925.
Oh.
So we're talking little stuff, and just kind of brainstorming before I came up here. Now, I am, like I said, been on the job coming up on 3 years now. The amount of monies I have not spent throughout this fiscal year will probably pay for that. Never mind the money I've been bringing in on the passport side. So, other than that, veterans are good. The 115 budget is, we're good with that number, but the amount of fluctuation we have, I can keep that steady this year. I will have to increase it next year. I've been here, this will be the 3rd budget I've done. I increased it to what it is now, the first year. In the last 2 years, we've kept it pat. But just so we continue to have the same buffer in there, we are in the middle of going from 17 veterans on the Chapter 115 program to, by March, probably about 25. As I may have explained in the past, there are different budgets. The 3 main budgets I deal with are single, which is budget 1, married, which is budget 2. Budget 5 category for the state in this program is medical only. So what that means is if a couple or a veteran in town, if their income is towards the top of the income bracket for the means test, we wouldn't necessarily help them with fuel or help them with their rent, but what we would do is reimburse them for their Med B, Med D, Medigap, prescriptions not filled at the VA, that sort of thing. And that's where we're seeing the increase. It isn't so much with the single or married folks that we need to help out with the fuel and with the rent and the mortgage. It's more of the upping medical costs there, because it even benefits somebody if they go over and they have a spend down of $100. Med B is now up to $170, $110. So all we would do is prescriptions, doctor copays, and that $71.10 a month. If that was the case. So just stuff like that. Like I said, I believe confidently we can keep it pat this year, but next year we'll have to go up.
And that's the veterans benefits line, right?
Yes, that's the veterans benefit line 5770.
But we get a certain amount reimbursed back to us.
That's
for that.
75% does come back. So, but other than that, the general expenses can stay pat for this year as well. Vetrospect that I requested 2 years ago, the line item 5503, that is $450 a year. We were able to complete just VA claims, we're not talking survivors benefits or anything like that, but disability claims. We're able to do 75 on our own, submitting them up to regional and all that sort of stuff, and that saves time, paperwork, and instead of having a veteran come in the office for 2 hours, we can have the veteran come in for 45 minutes. And that's, like I said, that 450 is definitely worth its weight in gold so far. So.
And do you, so going back to this, the passport camera, I mean, is that something that needs to wait until the next fiscal year? I would think for $925, we should just be able to figure out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we could, just like I said, between now and the end of this FY, figure out how to squeeze that in, that would definitely. I've got enough supplies for the current system that I have. It'll last us the FY, so it's not like I'd be spending any more money on the current system.
Okay.
So these are the pictures you can get at CVS, the same pictures?
Yes. So CVS, Walgreens usually charges about $14-15.99. We charge 10, and even during the pandemic, let's see, let's keep it current to this FY. We average roughly between $750 and $1,000, and that's just little ballpark of what's coming in.
Per
'Cause
year.
We do charge for the brand new passports or a minor or a child renew. It's $35 for the processing. It's $10 for the picture, and then another thing that has been helping us out is from 4 to 8. Reason I had to come up here in kind of a rush is I stack a lot of the passports on Monday because it's now up to $8.95 per priority envelope, but I can fit 7 passports in that one envelope. So as opposed to having 7 and it costing us $50 to $60 every time we're doing one, we're stacking them, so we're only sending out 1, maybe 2 envelopes a week as opposed to 5. So trying to be a little bit more efficient on that side of it.
Efficiency is good.
Is it a digital camera you use for the pictures downstairs?
It is a digital camera, and it does come with its Bluetooth connection to its printer. We're on our second printer, and every once in a while, we've come up with a lot of different. I've been able to fix a lot of the glitches, but it's getting to the point where it'd be a lot less stressful if we didn't have to bounce around with that stuff.
What are you looking at right now for replacements?
So this would be a digital system all on its own, kind of the same thing, and this way it would come up with a graphic, because the passport agency that we do that we do customer service through is phenomenal. But when it comes to the picture, I'm like, what camera do you guys use? I'll just get that. Mm-hmm. Oh, just anything that's 2x2. Well, that doesn't quite work. You can put anything in 2x2. So this one, I'd be able to dial it down and just pull up a U.S. passport, and it would be able to take a picture with the specifics on it. As opposed to, right now, I do have a guide that I cut it out with, and I do have but with that system that's at least, I'd say, 8 to 10 years old. It's a little bit more on the challenging side, so.
It's like a filter, like a Snapchat filter.
Yeah, this way, and like I said, and this just brings more efficiency to the task.
Perfect.
Yeah, it makes sense. Any questions for Chris?
I'm good.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Who wants to text Melanie?
Sure. I should have told her to be early, though.
She's up next.
Yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea to compete with tax-paying entities in the town for services they already offer. I mean, you know, what if the library starts selling books, you know, and then the bookstore goes out of business? That doesn't seem like a good thing
They
to
do
me.
have a book sale.
You know what I mean? I mean,
It's just like a couple dollars.
seem like a good thing. I'm sure CVS doesn't care because it's peanuts for them, but I don't think it's a good practice for the town to be in to compete with the people that are paying the taxes.
I mean,
This is not-
You can start doing banking services here, right?
they can get a banking charter. They're more than welcome to enter the wonderful world of banking.
They do pretty well with the pharmacy, I think. I said we're all ready for you, with an exclamation point, so she'll hurry up.
I guess while we're waiting, so next week on Monday, we'll meet again at 6 o'clock and we'll have the police, the fire, and the DPW. Kev and I are meeting with Chief Heron tomorrow, but police and DPW are all good. Okay.
Same
Yeah,
time.
mine, I just have to do the Conservation Commission. I got the other two budgets. I got a goodie bag from the Council of Aging. I forgot to bring it. I'll bring it next time.
I did that one for a couple of years. I didn't get a goodie bag.
Wow.
So you have to game
Then I think we'll probably look at the following week also to get those last ones in, the IT, conservation.
Hi.
Late, I'm sorry.
No, it's
No, no,
okay.
no.
You're
Old
right on
friend.
Come on up. We're ahead of schedule.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, I love your sweater.
Thanks.
Looks so warm.
Everyone good?
Yeah.
Yes, and yourself? Good?
Good, yeah.
How's the
Enjoying
family?
it. They're good. Healthy.
Big.
So, baby's already crawling, pulling herself up.
Oh, wow.
Last time you were here, you just in your, she was in your belly.
I know. Yep, it's
Other side of the
crazy.
table.
I know.
I know, this is weird. I like it. I think.
Ready.
So Crystal, you still want to make that motion to cut the budget by 20%?
Cut the meeting short, what?
Crystal and I will go to Fiestas.
Oh,
Everyone's
man.
welcome.
That's right. All right. Well, take us through, or walk us through what you have.
So, just like the other years, it's a small, like a very small line item budget. My salary is definitely the biggest piece this year. So when they put in the 95,000 last year, that was just what they hadn't. I don't even think they had done interviews yet. They were just had put the position out there. They did a couple rounds of interviews before I applied, and so I ended up higher than the 95. So my request for 23 includes, so it could potentially be lower. In my contract, if I pass the first piece of the governmental accounting exam that's offered in March, I get $3,000 retro to my start date in the fiscal year that I would pass. So that, and then the increase of 2%, which is per the contract, would be on that new amount. So it's possible that that amount would only be 110 times 2% increase. But I wanted to put it in as if I passed, because obviously you don't
So you
know.
take that test in March?
Yeah.
When do you find out if you pass?
I think they say May. So the past couple of years, it's been hard to tell, because the past couple of years, the schedule's been messed up because of COVID. But that looks like what the typical schedule is. They still haven't released, it said in late January they would release the schedule for the training. It's a 3-day school in March, and on the last day of the school, you can take the exam if you want to. So, it's out in Amherst. So that's part of the reason too, that the dues and conferences and training is up a bit, because I will have to attend that school where I don't think Phyllis has been attending it in the last few years, because she's had done it multiple times. And then if you do, there's two parts of the exam, and if you pass both, then to keep your certification, you're required to go to the school once every 3 years. So it wouldn't necessarily be an annual thing, because I'd see like what I think I would get out of it.
So this includes the retroactive?
It would, yes, yep.
So once you get the retroactive, though,
That becomes my base salary. So I'm at,
okay, so that it rolls into your base.
yeah, so the 2% increase would be on that new base amount.
The retro is the stipend for passing the exam.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So rather than, the way it worked out was, rather than give me a higher starting salary, we made it so it was like incentive. If I go and do the exam, pass one part, it will be 3,000, and then another 3,000 on the second part. So I'm choosing to do one part this year rather than trying to do both. So there's obviously no guarantee that I'll pass it this year, but I'll keep trying. So that's the top line. Chris is the assistant. Hers is at a 2% increase, and then she gets the 5% longevity too, so that's why it's a little bit higher than 2%. And the 625 is her longevity as well, and we factored in 1 week of vacation buyback for her, because she's at 4 weeks now and she doesn't know that she'll use them all, so we put in for a week. And then the training, I said, is just up a little for the school, and then I think just in general, I've probably done a little more trainings and things that Phyllis was doing, just because she had been here for so long. I dropped our computer supplies, because we, as you see, we haven't used much of it, and hope that we wouldn't have to, so that's where we are. And do you guys like my little work of art and my new SoftWrite report? I was very proud of that.
Very cool.
I've been
Do you
working
maybe
on
want to
that.
update the committee? I mean, I mentioned SoftWrite, but do you want to
Yes.
update them where you stand with that?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're seeing the report that looks like this. I had sent that.
Oh, that's
Did
a
you
good
get
question.
that
I
one
didn't
as
forward
well?
that one out because I didn't want
Okay.
to confuse with
Looking at 8
what they were
different
supposed to
budgets.
bring
Yeah,
tonight.
no, so
Formats.
I sent the formats that were directly from the departments,
Yeah.
and then Dan can forward as well. I didn't bring copies up, but, so this is like the SoftWrite, when you see the management reports that show like what the spending has been, we can now drop the budget into that format. So I have a column for the FY21 expended, the FY22 budget, FY22 year-to-date, and then what the FY23 department request is. And then the change is calculated on the FY22 budget versus the 23 department request. So it's like a nice uniform way to see it, and I have 2 working copies of it right now. So I have a copy of basically the higher budget, that if any department submitted 2 budgets, they're higher, like real needs, and then one with like a level service, so that we can have a copy of both to look at. I think tonight's departments, I don't think there was too much difference. Maybe 1 or 2 had slight differences.
We started with the easy ones tonight.
It's a good idea. So I don't know, I was excited about that. I'm hoping that it will make it easier. And what I did, so for John Shea, I took the report, and SoftWrite's not great as far as getting it to Excel, but I can put the report in Excel. It doesn't carry any formulas or anything, but at least I could give it to John in Excel, so maybe they can drop it in, so at least they can see the line items that we use, and then the budget, the year-to-date expended for when they drop it in. So I think it will help a little bit. Excited.
So I'm still confused. All right? Is the FY '22 appropriation on salary your contracted salary?
No,
Okay,
that's what
why,
they didn't
okay.
know when they put it out,
Okay.
last year. That was what they had.
Because when you were saying a
guessed.
3% increase, I'm saying. this
Yeah, no,
doesn't
that
really-
wouldn't-
Okay, all right, that answered my
No.
question.
You're good.
Okay, that's what I thought, I just wanted to make sure.
No, like I said, I don't think they had even started interviews at that point.
That was just a placeholder.
Yeah.
Well, and I brought that point up with Charlie too, that as they budget for treasurer
Treasurer is
collector
gonna
next
be-
year, they need to consider what the labor market is today and, is the number that they're putting in actually
Mm-hmm.
realistic?
Yeah.
Right.
Good point.
There's a lot of jobs out there for people in this, like, in, this industry, so. It's hard.
Everyone will have uniform budgets soon.
Yeah,
Or like-
they'll look pretty for you guys.
No, we
It's only
appreciate that.
Only been a few years in the making.
And it was hard, like, there's a lot of stuff, like, I have to call SoftWrite to ask how to do certain things, just because when you are looking at it, it's not that user-friendly. Like, some of it's, like, in code that I'm like, I don't know what this means. But the girl's really good about it, and I was able to talk to the town accountant in Whitman, and he showed me the report that they used. And because they're on SoftWrite too, she can copy their report and give it to us, basically. So that was nice.
How much does software cost? Is that on here, or is that on the IT guys?
It's on IT. I'm not sure which line.
That maybe
Yeah, no,
something
we
we should get a
don't-
refresh? It sounds like that's a pain for you.
So Ryan was saying that at some point we will have to have that conversation, because he has a feeling that at some point SoftWrite might be, changing directions, but it is, it's cost effective
It's pretty
compared
inexpensive
to.
compared to the other ones
Yeah,
out there like
exactly.
Munis and,
Yeah, Munis I think is super expensive compared to SoftWrite, and it's a big project too, to switch accounting systems, so
Huge.
at this point, it works. So I'm,
probably not something to take on in your first year.
no, definitely not, no. I need to get a few years of figuring this out, and so it's working out. But, yeah, you can see the year-to-date, like, I've done a few trainings this year, that have been helpful, and everyone's been great. All the other departments are really easy to work with, so it's been going well.
Good.
We miss you.
I know, I miss you guys.
I appreciate all your help in keeping everything organized.
Yeah, no, anything you need, just, you know how to find me.
You can always come hang out in our
I know, I
audience and just pretend like you're still here with us.
I know, when I get caught up on everything, and then I can come up and be like, and hang out, I'll watch the meetings. But yeah, if you ever want me to come to any of them coming up, just let me know, like, if there's anything that you think I might be helpful with.
Okay.
But that's it.
Any questions for Melanie?
Oh, glad you're on the job.
I think we made it far too easy, we should have. Better prepared,
There's some smoking gun in
Yeah,
here.
Yeah,
Should have had something,
all those 10 lines, it's
I
just,
know.
I don't know, I was hoping to whack her on that one line,
I
but she
know.
had me going.
You tried.
no, and I went back and I wrote down what my calculations were, because I'd done it so long ago, especially the longevity with Chris's, that was new to me. I'm like, okay, walk me through that again. But, there's always, that's one thing I've really noticed now, is how crazy it is, how all these contracts are completely different, and it's so many differences. So, I know that's not your job, but it's
work.
somebody's job for another day, I
Yeah,
guess.
but that's tough to manage as a manager, too.
Yeah, I don't know, especially like Charlie coming in and trying to follow all them and everything. So, it's a lot. I luckily just have her to know her. It's in and out, but it's been interesting trying to follow them.
I bet.
Who's next? Who you guys have after me?
Board of Health, so
Want me to walk down and tell them if
if
they're
it's
ready?
on your way,
Yeah,
that would be
no signs.
awesome.
All right, thank you guys.
you.
Good to see you.
I don't
Drop
think,
in down there whenever you're in here too.
Like with a coffee. No.
Yeah, right.
Always welcome.
They did an office, I don't know if you've been in the accounting office before, but it was like one big room. So now it's separated into an office, and then the main area looks really good, so.
All right, we'll check it out.
Then,
See, the last accountant didn't offer us to go now.
no, no.
We're getting gift bags now and invitations to hang out. This is our year.
I haven't met the new health agent.
I haven't either, despite me being the liaison.
Who had Board of Health?
I do.
Oh, you do? Oh, but you just met with Sue.
I haven't, yeah.
Okay,
Rob was the one who did the budget this year, so.
Okay.
Rob Lyons for the chair,
okay.
so they've had a lot of turnover.
Yeah, yes. Yes, they have.
Oh, we're flying tonight, huh?
Yeah, this week, if we can get this. Building and planning might take a little bit of time, but he's usually pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
too.
his is pretty, I went through with them, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
There's one component in there where they were, combining two positions with the retirement, but
Oh,
it's all,
yeah.
it's all kind of a wash.
Oh, I saw that.
It's all
yeah.
from last
Yep.
year, so you'll remember it when it starts.
Hi.
Hey, all.
Hello.
Rob.
Mr. Lyons.
How's it going?
All right,
Well,
you?
yourself?
Excellent.
You're just taking a back seat today?
Yeah, well, Jean Marie's here. She can sit up with Rob. Yeah.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Crystal, how's it going?
Good, how about yourself?
All
right.
I know that sounded funny, but a little Board of Health humor.
Well, welcome.
All right.
I don't think we've met. I'm Dan Peak. I don't know if I've met. I don't think I met you, Rob, actually. And your name. Your
Jean Marie Kent Joyce.
Okay.
Jean Marie Joyce from the new health agent.
excellent. Welcome
Thank you.
to East Bridgewater. Hopefully everything's going well so far.
Well, anyone bouncy in the middle of COVID's gonna be running.
Yeah. I know, right?
And then the challenge of working with Rob Lyons is something in and of itself as well, so.
Yeah, that's the biggest mountain to climb right there. That's what I've heard.
Excellent. Well, if you would just run us through what you put together.
Okay, so basically we looked at trying to stay flat as where we could. There's some shifting going on. However, it's no secret as to the challenges that that our office has faced over the last 2 years. And even though, there's talk of seeing end of the tunnel, we've been seeing and talking about the end of this tunnel for still a year and a half, and longer. And every time we think we're catching our breath, something crops up its ugly head, and then we as a team are underwater and not serving the community probably as robustly as we could, although I will say that both, Jean Marie coming on board, but, the person who's the glue, kind of held this town together, sitting behind me. And she's done a remarkable job of managing this with little or nothing. So this town, still owes a tip of the hat and quite a bit, to Sue. So, but we don't want to be in that condition forever. And I don't think the town of East Bridgewater, our citizens, our customers, would like us to be in that position either. So our biggest shift comes from looking at increasing hours in our nursing staff, where it's all been pandemic related, even though, again, as I mentioned before, we're still talking about light at the end of the tunnel. But there's just, again, still a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done. So we're looking at additional hours for nursing, whether that means bringing on another part-time nurse. Our current nurse right now is maxed out contractually, minimum 6 hours, maximum 10, and she's been doing far more than that for 2 years now. So we need to, really reassess that the hours in that position. And again, she's done a remarkable job. with, there's been a shift in health services, dollars in health services, where we've bringing on Jean Marie. We don't have to outsource that as much as we have in the past. There'd be some outsourcing. And the health services includes other things other than just, food inspection and things like that. But that now falls under Jean Marie's salary, where before we outsourced a lot of that because it was our last health agent who was a resident here in town felt there was a little bit of a conflict with some of the establishments. So we had worked out something with him where we would actually contract that out, sub that out to other towns, and I believe West Bridgewater, Sue, was, is that correct?
And most recently,
So that's shifted from that account into salary, and that's pretty much the biggest shift that we have.
Back to so with the nurse, were you adding somebody or were you increasing the hours?
That's our goal, is to add another part-time nurse. We can divide the current responsibilities or have one specialize in the infectious disease area that we're currently under, and the other focus on programs that are beneficial to the residents of the town, which we've had in place before, but have had to curtail, obviously, in these emergency situations. So in total, our total increase ask is only 4.3% increase.
So what did you mean, minimum of 6, max of 10?
6 hours, she works 6 hours a week. We're
And
looking for 10 hours a week.
Right, so her personal situation is she's part-time for us. It's an employee at will situation. Again, she does a great job, but she also has a full-time job, family, and things like that. So, 10 hours was supposed to be the occasional max. And then we've burnt way through that, during the pandemic and, emergency situations, things like that.
How do you engage the service? You just call you up and say, I need a nurse, and you guys roll the nurse out to the house, or what?
No, actually, what she used to do, or my understanding is what they used to do down at the Council on Aging, there's a treatment room. Very similar to what we have down in our office, too. And she would do blood pressure clinics. It was a way to get people to check their blood pressure constantly once a week. And also a way to keep in contact with the community for us and for her. With COVID, it's been mostly contact tracing, so the blood pressure clinics are still happening, but not to the degree that you really wanted to do it. It's one way to get your older people, back in contact with things. So that's what we were looking for.
So-
We use her in housing situations if we can maybe run into the hoarding, and we do have them, the hoarding situations that you hit. You go out as a housing inspector, but you also need mostly a mental health type person sometimes when you go out there. And that's what you'd use a nurse for.
Right.
If I'm in restaurant inspections and I get someone who thinks they got sick at a restaurant, I have to do a foodborne illness investigation. A big part of that is, what did you eat? How did you get sick? Who else may have gotten sick? And tracing it very much back the way we do COVID tracing. Where were you? Who were you with? Who else might have gotten ill? Use a nurse for that. Been flying by the seat of their pants doing that because they haven't had someone to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't really work, right?
No, not really. Try to do.
So in
Otherwise,
today's,
stop doing
in today's market, with nurses and stuff, how do you recruit somebody? What are you paying? What does the town pay a nurse?
Well, our current nurse is at $40 an hour. And we think that, we're hopeful that, being a part-time position, we might be able to, should be able to acquire somebody, that's just looking to either downsize the current career, semi-retired, whatever the case may be. In fact, it might be easy for us to find that individual than somebody who's looking to get back into, right there at the, jump right in the battlefield, if you will. It's a little different environment than going into a hospital or ER type situation.
Oh, yeah, and they're burnt out now, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions?
Are there other things you think you could use a nurse for? I mean, I'm just thinking as we're looking at this, you made a good point, that some may be looking for a career shift because of burnout and et cetera and stuff. And is it, if you were able to make this a full-time position, and I'm not saying we need to or whatever, but if we did, is there enough work to be done?
There's definitely programs that other towns in similar size and scope of East Bridgewater that have a little bit more. Again, you could pick towns that have less, and you can have towns that have more. But there's definitely an area of opportunity for improvement. Both from, and one of the things that before I took this position or ran for this position, in just chatting with folks around town, different department heads, things like that, a mental health component is something that we are missing. Where it's something that most towns our size, 14, 15,000, if and larger, touch upon, and we have very little, and there is a need out there. And there's other programs as well, whether it be nutrition, hoarding, other that would fall under a mental health issue, homelessness. The list goes on and on. So we could, more than fill up with programs that are going to benefit the citizens of East Bridgewater. That's not a problem. So I brought my pencil so I can go higher. So, like I said, there's definitely there's a gap there in the services that we could be providing, and to better serve the customers that are the citizens of East Bridgewater.
Just curious.
No, I agree. Good question.
I mean, because I think about things, when we talk to the chief and the police department, et cetera, and they talk about, the mental health situations they run into, et cetera, and working to get people into these halfway houses or into treatment centers, et cetera. It's a difficult challenge, and let's face it, today it's a different world, and it's it's something to be thinking about, because I look at this and, I go back to years ago, like, I don't know what it is at the school now for school nurses. It was difficult to find school nurses before, et cetera. If this is something, considering everything that's going on in today's world, that we as a town should look at, we should probably have some conversations, if it can really benefit the town.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot has happened. You read it in the papers, you see it on Facebook, you see it everywhere. And whether it's, it's not just the Council on Aging. There's kids.
No, there isn't.
There's all that interaction. It's just not going down taking blood pressure at the Council on Aging. So, and it's not just the seniors in the housing. So,
I hit a situation today where it was one of those kind of situations, and I was probably on the phone for 45 minutes. I get them. I'm sure police and fire certainly do get them. We get them whether they're in housing. When you're out there looking at well-being checks are the kind of the best way I could sort of say it to you. And those kind of an issue, you get the call and someone's needs some assistance. It's not something you can just stick your finger on, but that kind of help under the mental health, under, community services would be incredibly beneficial. And that would be all ages, not just, like you said, Council on Aging.
something to think about.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Maybe the ARPA funds.
You could probably temporarily do something out of ARPA, yeah. Figure out how to fund it. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Sue, aren't you gonna tell us anything?
They don't need me anywhere, they're all set.
That is so not true. That's just.
Patrick's gonna tell you everything, he knows it all. Not today, Patrick.
Okay, thanks again, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, man, great. How are you?
Right on time. Right on time.
Hi.
Next up, we have building and planning, and Patrick is here. Running about 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
It'll be ahead of schedule, right?
So we have five budgets, I think, to go through. Take it away.
Do you have you have the copy of the proposed?
We have.
Okay.
Yep.
So the proposed budget, it doesn't have much of an increase over the last one. However, there were some, wouldn't say major, but there were some pretty significant changes over the past couple of years in budgets. And you'll see on this one that one of the changes was, there was an attempt with the town to get a planner, and that didn't quite work out. And that was a part of the money for the planner was supposed to come out of this budget, was supposed to be a portion of this. So what the selectmen had decided to do, they kind of tabled that. It doesn't look like that was gonna work out, so they shifted the responsibilities. What they were looking for with a planner, a lot of what they were looking for, they asked if they could shift the responsibilities into the planning department. And they incorporated building, planning, and zoning all into one department, and then kind of put them all under one umbrella. So when they did that, the money that was allocated for, or not really allocated, that we were gonna try and use for that, we shifted over, right now you'll see that it was shifted over to the administrative assistant. One of the goals I had with that, and I had spoken with the previous town administrator, was interim. So this was like a project we've been working on. For them to approve a new position, say an office manager type position, and a raise for the administrative assistant. That's why I wanted to have the money in the budget, hoping that they will approve that shortly. A lot of responsibility has been shifted over to us between that, everything we're doing with the planner, and everything we're doing with this new technical review committee, which is actually taken on a whole life of its own. So that's why you see the shifts in the numbers. We've just kind of moved money around.
So in reality here, that 54,000 that was in 2022, to assume those additional duties, we're looking at increasing it $21,000, of which there was 44,000 removed. Right?
Correct.
Right.
Well, it was, I'm not sure, let me see. I'd have to calculate the exact number, but
Yeah. Well,
that's the idea. And what that is I just I shifted the money over to there. I have no idea what they're gonna approve for a salary. But reaching as high as you can so that it's in the budget. So that the money is there if we can get this, say.
Right. So it's still $23,000 to the good, reduced cost.
And the idea being, we're trying to achieve what they want with a planner without hiring a planner. We're trying to do that within our office, and it may take two people, it may take, right now, we still have Dot doing the part-time stuff. And if they create this new position and basically a promotion, Dot's salary right now is moved over to there too. So she'll be gone and someone else, new person will take over all of her responsibilities too.
So ultimately, you'd be running with two people.
That's right.
Plus you would have Dot or whoever would do the zoning board stuff.
Dot's gonna stay with zoning.
Okay.
That's a complete, yes.
Right, so that's just a part-time.
That's just under zoning, you can
Yeah,
see that's like,
clerical, yeah.
it's
Clerical.
only a few hours a week.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're hoping we'll be able to do it. I think we can, and, when I talked with the selectmen, and we've already started, we're kind of, for the most part, I'm doing it right now. And it's like, This weekend, it took all weekend. Because I'm not very efficient when it comes to that.
Is it the planning you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you planning this weekend?
So, you'd be surprised, I was surprised when I first started, there was no planner. And
Still no planning.
the chairman of the planning board was doing all of the, it still is doing an unbelievable amount of work for a volunteer. And, yeah, and some of the work that should be getting done hadn't been getting done. It wasn't time, he couldn't do it. So now we're following up on a lot of old accounts. I don't know if at the last planning board meeting, we discovered a lot of the old accounts haven't been maintained properly. The special engineering accounts. So we have to go back through all of those, find out if the account can be closed, what should be done with the money, who do we give it back to, how do we get it to them, things like that. And then moving forward, we need to have a plan of maintaining it better. It's a full-time job. It's a lot of work.
Which will fall on you ultimately, based on what the, right?
And why I asked them for this raise for someone else is because my management style honestly is delegating to people who are better at it than I am.
Yeah.
And that means it's gonna fall on someone else.
But I mean, the planning board gave you the authority
Yes.
over all of those accounts now, right? As opposed to
right.
having to come in and ask for, votes to pay this bill, that bill, whatever. That's all on you.
That's right. Yep.
And so with the change in the admin office manager staff, is it your existing staff that you can upgrade, or do you actually need to?
Yes.
Okay,
That's that's exactly what we wanna do.
okay.
Yeah. And the rest of it is just basically standard. We don't, there's a lot of the stuff, a lot of the things in our budget, there's no need for it to go up. It stayed the same, and each year we're trying to figure out, when we get certain expenses that we don't use any money for, those could probably be eliminated. But we're paring it down, and it's getting better, and it's getting closer to being very accurate.
Any budget that comes in at less than 0.5% increase is always a good budget. As long as it's realistic.
It is.
Patrick's obviously doing something wrong, so.
No, it's definitely realistic. I mean, one of the things that helped out a lot, and I knew it would, was that online permitting. And I know I keep saying I sound like a broken record, but the benefit from that exceeds the expense.
Yeah.
The amount of time, and it really did hold true. I was talking with I think it was Jim Purcell. I think we can quantify, based on some other towns, that the number of permits goes up with online permitting just because you have online permitting.
Right, it's easy to meet the letter of the law.
And it went up quite a bit. So a lot more money was taken in just from having it. So,
You have that now?
yes,
You
the
do?
online, yep.
The town I work in, we have it also.
It's great.
Fantastic, yeah.
We're hoping to try and get it for all of the permitting in East Bridgewater, everybody that pulls permits for everything. The fire department started it with fire permits, it's working out great for them, but every other type of permitting, we're trying to implement it too.
It's great. All our departments have it. It's good.
It is, especially during this COVID, it worked out
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable, because we didn't miss a beat.
Yep.
Yep.
That's great. Seems pretty straightforward. I think
Yeah.
what you're doing, staffing wise makes a lot of sense.
Okay, good.
And is there any added types of training or anything like that the staff would need to kind of get them to the level where you want them to be with the added responsibility?
There will be.
Okay.
And we sent several proposals over to the, it's not the Old Colony Planning, but it's a regional planning agency that's advertises that they will come to us for certain training aspects. And we reached out to them several times. And naturally, because of the COVID, they stopped doing it. Then they were doing it again. And now they're going to virtual, which would be fine too, but we just can't, we can't lock down a date with them. And they have several, especially with the planning, and how to manage and how to, you know, properly, what's it, an agenda. Just something as simple as that. What's required for the agenda and how to make an efficient agenda. That's, sounds trivial, but it's not. It's,
So do you feel like any cost that you'd have that's adequately in here?
I think we have enough budget to cover, and actually, the training and education budget, we're not gonna pull any money out of that, even though last year we didn't use all of it. That's because there was 3 off-site trainings that we usually do that we didn't do. They were just canceled last year. We intend on doing those again, but we just didn't do it this year.
Okay.
Patrick, all the assistant inspector line items for salaries, that's just out-of-town coverage, is that right? That's not actual, assistant gas and plumbing inspection, assistant wire inspector and so forth, that's coverage from somebody else when our inspector is not available?
That's correct. And the way they do it right now, they just have, I don't even think they have a contract with them. It's kind of,
Just an ad hoc,
they just
yeah.
keep appointing them every year, and that's just an annual stipend. And it doesn't say in their contract how many hours
Oh,
or
okay.
anything. It's just if one of the, you know, if Fred or David can't
Do it, yeah.
do it, we call them.
It's a very, very efficient budget.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It really is.
It's not a big department. It's not a lot of moving parts. It's,
I feel like you're,
The stuff that they handle and, you know, it's true. I mean, I think that just my own experience there is, you know, as Patrick said, Roy Gardner, the amount of time that he puts in as a volunteer is extraordinary.
right. And we need to
Yeah, exactly, needs to,
take some of that,
some of that institutional
Responsibility.
knowledge needs to go, you know, to, you know,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not a bad term, but at work, we call that a single point of failure. If that person just stops doing it, then
Yep,
it's,
yeah, then you got a
you have
real
a
issue,
huge
sure.
hole.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so, any other questions for Patrick?
All right,
Okay.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, that was good. We got through all
You
those.
don't have a
or-
planner here, huh? You don't have a planner?
We don't have a planner for the town.
Maybe should, but
The
don't.
plan is to get one.
Yeah, I mean, they were, I don't know exactly what happened. I know they were, they wanted to get one, but then we had change in leadership in town and
Put on
I don't
ice
know
and
how he
water.
does all
trigger at
this.
the right time, but who knows? I don't know what the vision is for that, but
God, the responsibility on the guy,
yeah.
unbelievable.
That's, I mean, I think he was running 5 departments, basically. So, okay, so next week, like I said, we have police, fire, DPW. Those are always great presentations.
Where's the school one?
So Crystal and I met with Liz and John last Thursday. You know, theirs is, they have an initial draft, like they always do. They just started negotiations with the teachers' union, so that's their variable. They don't know where they're gonna come out on that. And then they have to wait for a lot of data from the state that's usually in and around the March timeframe, before they can actually kind of tie everything together. But I will say, John, you know, continues to evolve the way that he puts his budget together, and it's very clear. They're doing some really great stuff with grant programs and getting grant monies to try and fund a lot of the programs that they're doing, and some of the positions that they have as temporary positions. So it's been great to see how he's evolved that.
Awesome. He's a good guy.
Yeah, no, they work hard over there, definitely. So, any other open items, conversations, questions?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, everyone stay safe. We'll see you next Monday.
No prawns.